This is dangerous territory here, but did you ever have a job that you just really hated?
Well, yeah, but they're mostly my, I have been fortunate that I've liked a lot of my adult jobs.
Uh-huh.
That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
But I had a lot of early on jobs that I just hated. I was the Chuck E. Cheese mouse.
You were?
You were the Chuck E. Cheese mouse?
Every time we get a new one.
What? She has never said that.
No.
Why would you?
Because why would you not?
You told us the donut story, but you didn't tell us the Chuck E. Cheese mouse story.
Sunday, the people want the Chuck E. Cheese mouse.
It's so awful.
My mind is blown right now.
I'm offended.
And now everybody like hates Chuck E. Cheese. So it's like, we had the summer before my year off to college. I got a job. I was basically two things: a birthday party host, and then
What's a birthday party? You mean as the Chuck E. Cheese mouse?
No, two separate things. When you are not the Chuck E. Cheese and you're just like, hey guys, follow me. We're going to do this now. Now it's time for your cake. Now it's time for your I was like,
wait, that was
in charge of a birthday party.
You know how some cultures have like lamenters for hire, like people who grieve at the funeral for hire? Like,
wait, really?
Is there a version of that on the happy side? Sunday could be the one who like comes and brings all the like positive vibes to your party.
I just made them have fun for an hour and a half. And then I would put the little Chuck E. Cheese mouse costume on, which if you think about it, what's inside there?
Do you sweat a lot in
Yes. And then, but I was too young to care. I don't know. I was just like, and I just would love all the hand movements and things. And people would pull my tail and I'd be like, back off. Swat a few kids. I just walked around.
I'm just going to be really quiet because I wanted this to keep going.
What else did I do as the
That is amazing.
So, yeah.
Now I feel like Jacqueline, our examples are going to sound way too...
You just blurted that.
Totally. Now I don't even know what to add.
But it was awful. But it was an awful job,
Yeah.
Pay was bad.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It was 50 minutes from my house.
50?
I drove 50 minutes from the house.
To be... Joe, can we get that as a quote for this episode?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
I drove 50 minutes to be a mouse.
There was a really cute boy that worked there too.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I had a really similar one. Mm-hmm. It was...
Wait, I'm confused. What was bad about this?
Boy.
It sounded fun. Like you were willing to drive 50 minutes to be a mouse. You had fun waving your hands.
I did.
What's the problem here?
But my question is, costume probably was the worst part. And the kids were bratty.
Yeah.
Pulling at my tail.
Okay, Jacqueline, do you have anything serious?
Sorry.
We are a thought leadership podcast.
My following is starting to doubt me.
Okay, but my question is, you just said there's a cute boy who worked there. What were the other jobs? Like, like people.
Salad bar.
Like, I think I'm feeling
other characters.
I'm like, are there other? Because I can't remember. I mean,
the Badger, he was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh God.
Totally what I expected.
Yeah.
All right. We dial that question back.
Of when I say something, I feel like I've told you everything. I feel like you're bored shitless with me. Sometimes.
Definitely not.
Oops. Bored.
An explicit podcast.
You're bored to death by me.
Yeah.
And I just
Sorry to put the E on this episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going. Your turn. Enough about me.
You are fired. Actually, she spins off a podcast off of Chuck E. Cheese and gets this huge following. Like that launches her new career.
Right.
Okay. Did you have one, Jacqueline?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
you don't have to have one, but.
Well, it's funny. I think I more just have like funny, like bad experience stories from jobs that I've had. Like, I think I would not categorize any of the jobs I've had as jobs I like hated.
Yeah.
But this one story that comes to mind and is not similar to the Chuck E. Cheese.
How are we gonna?
But funny in that, like, I worked at a very high-end jewelry store when I was in college, like a jewelry store that makes like diamonds and like watches and things. But I would like wrap the gifts at Christmas. So I would do all the wrapping and then I would like like they would like offer people like something to drink when they came in while they're shopping for their diamonds, right? So I was just like the assistant, and I would like wipe the glass counters, basically, is what I did.
I'm really hoping this is leading to either a heist or Jacqueline steals things.
Right, right.
Does that say something about the movies I like? Okay.
So at the time, some like if you're a woman enlisting, you might remember like Pandora bracelets.
Yes.
They were such a thing for a while, right? And so we happened to have like a selection of Pandora beads. And I will never forget, this woman calls, I think it might have been either New Year's Eve or like the day before New Year's Eve. So very close to Christmas. And she is like, she's like, I have been looking high and low for this one Pandora bead all over Richmond. No one in Richmond has this bead. Do you have it? And it was busy, and I was like, yeah, sure. Like, let me go double check. And I go and look, and I'm like, oh yeah, we've got like 4 in stock of this bead. I'm like, yeah, lady, like come on in.
Yeah, lady.
I've got your name on it. I mean, I said it, but I'm just like, this lady's crazy with this stupid bead. Like, who cares? I have this weird like sinking feeling, and I go back to the case and I realize I have looked at the wrong bead. And I've told this woman, but like, you have to understand, I was like 19, right? I was in college.
Terrifying, yeah.
I was terrified. I was like sweating. I was like, this woman is going to drive all the way here and she's not going to get the bead. Do y'all want to know what I did? I told my boss, and
You
my
quit
boss,
your job before you had to talk to her.
my boss he was a really interesting guy. And I was freaking out. I was like, I don't know what to do. I didn't get her phone number. I have no idea who she is. Like, I did all the wrong things in retail, right? He sent me across the street to the other jeweler in the mall to buy a bead from them, put it back in our inventory, and resell it to her. That is what happened.
Did not see that coming.
The weirdest
Right.
thing ever. And I don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if that's like
Don't know what to make of it. Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that.
It's like,
but it was probably one of the weird, all over a Pandora bead. And the woman was so happy. She picked it up. She was like, I forget. I think she was gifting it to somebody, of course. And I will just
Or at least that's what she was saying.
Yeah,
It
who
was really
knows?
for her.
that is
It
so
was-
random.
Isn't that
But
the
I
weirdest?
really relate. Like, yeah, a bunch of
Like, no.
early job experiences like that. Where
Like weird.
so weird.
Like I literally went to another jewelry store to make a purchase on behalf of our company and then sold her there. It was the weirdest thing ever.
yeah.
Isn't that funny?
No, you're taking me back. Oh my gosh. So many
Funny.
things like that. I have a.
You also tried to find a Pandora bead.
Yeah. Well, I was part of her
I know that
network. It
story was riveting, guys.
No,
so
I know the woman who came in. We had a Pandora bead heist plan in motion that you actually foiled, Jacqueline. That was the. I'm remembering. I even had a job early on, maybe my first ever job, corn detasseling. So sometimes I'll say this, and people are like, "What is that?"
Like
if you lived in the
shucking
Midwest,
corn?
you know
Yeah.
what this is about. There were cornfields everywhere. And the machines could like cut the corn down or whatever. But first, humans had to go through the field and pull the top part out, which was like the part that would pollinate the other plants, and they're trying to control it all. So they had these like picture a big, I don't know, farming equipment like truck thing with these baskets, one in each row of the corn. And they would put a kid in each basket. I swear this was child labor. And we would, like 6th grade or something, I would go like 5 a.m. A bus would take us out to this field, kid in each basket, and you're like roaring through the fields and you have to pull them out, but you're always behind. You can never keep up fast enough. It was like a nightmare. And the boss is just sitting back there judging like how many times you miss. This was 6th grade.
Wow.
This was like child labor. And so I have a weird, as a career coach, I'm like, some of those, all the things we're saying were like actually formative, and they gave you some character and they gave you some grit. And you learned a lot of good lessons for career in those terrible early jobs, or even just like mowing, babysitting, whatever.
Also just great stories for your life.
Yeah. And so
Totally.
if you look up my LinkedIn, I actually have in my job history, I list all of those at the bottom, like all the little weird odd jobs and early on jobs I had, which is totally breaking the rules for what you're supposed to do, like what we teach people to do on their LinkedIn. But I just kind of feel like, no, those were important. And I learned a lot from those. I just hope, at the same time, I hope no one ever reads that far down.
Now they all are.
Because it's a little embarrassing.
They're going back to it.
Wait, but Sunday, do you have the Chuck E. Cheese mouse on your
LinkedIn? I don't think I ever put it on a single resume.
Steve, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling kind of self-conscious about my story after hearing Sunday's. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like yours is the best.
Oh my gosh.
It's so good.
Well, thank you. I don't think I would have ever told you.
That is so funny. It does make me wonder what else you haven't told us.
I know. Next episode, all the secrets revealed.
Coming out.
Because Sunday's had some interesting jobs.
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah. So
and
I
you
need
have
a
lots
vote.
of stories.
I need a vote from our listeners. You need to DM us on Instagram, Greenhouse Coaching, if you want this on the podcast or not. We're thinking about doing a segment where we interview people with like interesting, unique, odd jobs or careers. Like, how did you get there? Like, tell us what a day in the life is like.
Yeah.
So we've talked about someone who is one of the only like people in the world who sells horses to like the Kentucky Derby racers. Your friend who's like the poet laureate of the United States.
Let's be clear, it's my sister-in-law. Yeah, like I didn't even know what a poet laureate. I know.
Some fascinating jobs.
Also, let's just talk about that. The fact that the two people you mentioned are also married to each other. They both have the yeah.
It's all conspiracy.
Oh, I thought you were about to say I did.
So tell us if you are dying to hear this segment on the podcast, or B, if you think this is a terrible idea, and please do not do it.
I thought he was going to ask our listeners for a vote on how many people would like a whole podcast on all the interesting secrets of my life.
Wait, I actually kind of thought that was the direction you were going into. No, we don't care enough.
All right.
I had one kind of like you, Jacqueline, though, where the job was more of a whatever normal job. I was basically like a project manager. But then they'd send us to this supplier site that was like, I don't know, 6 hours away. So me and my coworker friend pretty much every other week had to go down there. We were kind of newly married, like there was a lot. Me and the coworker. So put a lot of stress on us being in the car that much. We were still figuring out our core values, you know?
Right.
We were both separately newly married. So it was just like a weird season of life to have to go travel a lot for work. And every time we went, our boss wouldn't tell us how long we're going to be away. And sometimes it would be weeks on end. But like,
so weird.
But our spouses thought we were coming home in a couple days. And it was like, nope, 2 more days.
Talk about
3 more days. 4 more days.
Like that's an instant argument.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Also, how did you do laundry?
Oh, good question. But
sorry.
So we're basically down there for these stretches of time, and we're hanging out with the employees of this other company all day long. And we started to feel really bad because our boss, this was a job I hated. Our boss was a terrible boss. And basically would just like bark orders at us, but we were used to that, but would also bark orders at the supplier company employees. We were not cool with that. We were like, no, we have to be with them all day. Like you do not make them feel like crap. So we would try to devise and fight back, and it was really hard. This boss was like very manipulative. So one day we devised a plan. We're like, all right, we're in this little, like almost manufacturing kind of town. There's no restaurants, no anything. And so every morning we go to Starbucks, and every night we'd eat at Applebee's. And we do that over and over and over. So we tried everything on the menu at both places. And we were like, what if? Like we have a stipend. It's tiny, but the company gives us like a, something ridiculous, like $20 a day stipend for eating.
Right.
So we're like, today, we're going to spend all of our stipend at Starbucks, and we're going to buy everything we can and bring it to the employees at the supplier company and just shower them with gifts and like goodies in the morning. So we pull up to the Starbucks drive-thru, and they're like, what do you want? Welcome to Starbucks. And we're like, what do you have in your pastry case? And they go, well, we have like some croissants and some egg bites and some blah, blah. And we're like, okay, yeah, we'll take those. And they're like, which ones? We're like, all of them. And they're like, say that again? We're like, no, all of the things you listed. And they're like, so one of each? We're like, no, everything in the case. So we bought everything in the Starbucks case that morning and just bought out all of what they had. and brought all these boxes of stuff to the supplier company. We're like, treats on us. And people were like, yeah, croissants.
Croissants. Meanwhile, everyone at the Starbucks standing behind you hated you.
Yeah.
Because
and it was one of those moments that felt so much better. You know how like a joke sometimes is funnier at work because you're at work?
Yes.
Like it felt so like the crowning moment of this movie because we all hated the environment going on at work so much.
This was your happy moment.
Endless croissants was heaven.
It was heaven.
I loved that.
Love it.
Well, one of the things we're adding this year, I'm excited about the kind of member shout out and highlighting something that's happening in coaching with people, because we get to hear people's stories and wins all the time, but you all don't. And so we want to, and you all do not. So I'm not going to tell you. Well, today
That's one of the things we're looking forward to this year.
I wanted to share today about Pat because he's been in the greenhouse community doing coaching, working on some kind of vision and plans for his life and career. I really love when people are looking at both together. So that's exciting to me. And he had some big wins kind of toward the last half of last year, creating a game plan for his next steps. And he really made some, I think, bold decisions about like, these are some life goals that me and my family have and have talked about for a long time. And so I'm going to try some new things in my work to make it happen. And so going into this new year, he's starting to kind of execute on that plan. And I just think it was cool because he said, I'm just not good at this whole like visioning thing, not because I don't know what I want. I actually know what I want, but I need someone to keep me on the hook because I'm too practical that I always talk myself out of it.
On the hook.
Like, it's actually the first thing he said in the coaching experience was like, I just know that I'm going to talk myself out of it because it's not practical. And I always want to save the maximum amount of money I can save. And like, this plan is actually going to deviate from my income for a while. And like, I just need someone to tell me like, no, do it. So it was really cool. Shout out to Pat. All right. We also said on the first episode of the year that we are going to try some new things this year. And basically every month we're going to have a topic. And then each episode that month, we're kind of answering a specific question about that topic. So this month's all about how to find a career you love, or how to kind of make your career something more enjoyable. And so that's today's question. Like, does it matter if I enjoy my career? And if so, like, how do you navigate that? So that's today's question. What's throwing me off is I was listening to someone else's podcast coming into the studio today that, sometimes the stars align. And out of nowhere, they start talking about how trying to aim for a career you love is like a bad thing to be aiming for. And I'm headed into the studio to talk about why I think it's a good thing to aim for. I'm like, no. And because they had some really good points. And so I was like, oh man, questioning myself.
I think I've heard that podcast. Yeah.
Oh man. But I do think that's maybe why this question comes up.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about it because it comes up a lot. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting one. I don't have a yes or no answer, but I have some thoughts to share and a practical step to take that we'll share at the end. So let me just dive in with some interesting stats that there's still, I think, a lot more research to come out of like post-pandemic workplace and career type studies. But Gallup, who's always on top of it, came out already with an updated 79% of employees report that they're disengaged at work.
Like, let's just pause there for a second. 79%.
79%. And
that's not like 20%. 79.
It's huge. And I actually think, isn't it interesting how like almost like the news and media, like negative stuff catches our attention more than positive stuff?
Yeah.
So I flipped it. And I thought what was more shocking was that only 21% feel engaged.
Yeah.
Somehow to me, that was more like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I think it had been trending downward anyway. I am wondering and very curious if some of the increase is not because people are less happy, but because our perspective on work has shifted more and we're rethinking things. Because what we see is a lot of people going like, wait, maybe I always just like said I was fine, but maybe I want something different, or maybe I'm thinking about changes. So 79%, I just think that's crazy. And then from some of our own research, it still looks like somewhere around 85% of college grads, they still have no box on the org chart. Like they still don't know their career path. And
That's a high
I think
number,
it's
too.
actually higher, but I think that's more of a conservative number. So many people just don't know their career path, which is why often they come to us for help and some guidance in that. And so I don't know. I think that maybe those stats just validate the question of should I enjoy my work?
Yeah.
Is that the goal to aim for? If so, like how do I get there? And I would start, like I approached this question almost like a coaching session, that I think if you're asking that question, does it matter if I enjoy my career? I think the question to me is, where's that coming from? Like, where is that pondering or that question coming from for you?
Yeah, it feels like if the individual is asking, does it matter if I enjoy my career? I almost feel like they're saying it matters
Yeah.
that I enjoy my career.
Yeah.
Because
I think so. I think more often than not,
to that individual, not to the world.
That's
to
why
that
you're
individual.
asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I also think, okay, maybe my goal this year around fixing my back pain has me thinking about it. I was like, it's kind of like back pain, where if you're having the pain and it's like a chronic thing, the question is like, it might be a sign of a misalignment going on. Something's misaligned, something's off, and the pain is like a symptom of that. Or take any analogy like that you want. Like, I think that is the same thing here. If you're asking about career enjoyment and career fulfillment, maybe that's a sign that there's something misaligned and there's something to kind of take a closer look at. So you talked about it with the core values question. A lot of times, typically, this question is because, to your point, Sunday, you do want to enjoy work, but you're just stuck and don't know how to get there. And so it turns into a frustration that comes out in a question like, does it even matter? Should we even enjoy work? Like, is that even like doable? And I remember points in my career where I felt that. Like, I hated the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
And actually, deep down, I loved the question. I hated it because I was so frustrated that I didn't know how to figure it out.
I think the reason people also hate that question is we don't know what the expectations of that question being asked are.
Totally.
So it's hard to really answer it honestly.
Yeah. And it feels so big and unattainable. Like, I don't know. I just want to show up and like, have a good day. Why are you asking me this?
I remember I was asked, I was asked in an interview one time where I saw myself in 5 years, and I was totally unprepared for that question. I don't even know what I said, but I just remember in that moment feeling that angst of what you're saying, Sunday, of like, what is the expectation for me here?
Yeah.
Like, I'm interviewing for a job. I mean, like, hopefully, you know, if I get this job, I would like to be here in 5 years.
Here.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't see myself making a change, but what if I do? You know, it's like, what are you looking for from me by asking that? But
and interesting, because that's probably why we tend to see a lot of people who are like several years into their career or like way into their career. It's not actually the typical thing for people kind of right at the beginning of their career or like graduating college. That's not when they're coming to someone like us. It's more after they've had some experience and been like, okay, I got into like doing some work and now I'm starting to think about my expectations for it. If you're at all like me, I think it's also, the question can come from the waiting. The like, I just keep waiting for something to change and it never is. And so again, like the questions come out of that frustration. I think I had many years of kind of like waiting for lightning to strike. Like the clarity to just come out of nowhere.
Right.
And it didn't.
Right.
And so I would get mad when I heard someone speak on the stage and they'd be like, and then I realized my purpose in life. And I was like, well, how do I get that? Like, how did that happen? Like, is that supposed to happen for all of us? So sometimes people are, I'm thinking about our new member survey, and people always write in like, what why they came to Greenhouse and what they're looking for in a coaching experience. And there's always that thread of like, I don't know, I'm just kind of fed up with like not knowing what I want to do and where I'm headed. That kind of frustration.
I had this random spin-off thought too around this, just because we have so many people. I mean, the world is just filled with so many different motivations, socioeconomic thing. I mean, there's so many. It's just trying to bring it down to another place too. And my sister would not mind that I'm talking about her.
Okay.
But my sister is, her job is not the most exciting job to many people, but my sister, it's about her mindset. And so while the job isn't always the most interesting, whatever she does, she makes it fun and a job she loves because her mindset always decides to do that. That is, by the way, fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So just, so sometimes we can't always control we have a lot more control than we realize. Or we haven't taken that control. And
but your point
shift
is some
of a
people
mindset.
have more privilege and opportunity than others. And that's
I love that.
Yeah.
That it's not quite connected to what you say, but I thought I'd share it anyway.
Yeah, I think it's
just so beautiful to me that she's able to shift her mindset and find joy in every single job that she's had.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had that in mind while Steve, you were sharing, because I think that's why people ask this, because it does feel like there's like two extremes, right? And we kind of talked about this on the last episode a little bit too, of like, does it matter if I enjoy my job? Because some people do work to live. And like at the end of the day, it's like, nope, I'm just trying to provide, for my family, or I'm trying to provide for my extended family. And it looks different for them. So then like, what does this question apply? Like, I don't know. I guess I'm curious about that. That piece of it.
Yeah. And where I like to go in a coaching conversation around this is if you're asking this question, my response is, I don't think there's one right answer out there for everybody. I think I'm curious what matters to you. Does it matter to you to enjoy your work?
Right.
Do you not care that much? Are you in a season of life where like you're working 3 different jobs,
season of life,
just to make enough to provide or to get to a next step?
Yeah.
Or, like there can be seasons of life where it matters or doesn't.
Yeah.
I think that our culture it's always going to extremes. And so we take this to an extreme where we make work our identity. And so it's like all or nothing. Well, I got to enjoy my job and it has to be passionate all the time about it or it's wrong. To me, that's like way off. I actually think, yes, work should be meaningful. Yes, I think it's worth striving for it to be enjoyable. Is it going to be perfect? No. But like what matters to you right now? I mean, how Greenhouse was born is I had a season of life where I was like, it really matters that I enjoy work because I spend most of my waking hours there and I want to make a difference and I want to use my skills and strengths and I'm not right now. So like, what would be a path that would do those things? And so let me get intentional and pursue that. It was more of a question of like tapping into my potential, but recognizing that some people might answer that and be like, no, I don't think that is as important to me or right now. So what matters to you, I guess, is my question to somebody Googling, should work be enjoyable? Because part of the problem is in comparison. We look out there to like, what are people saying on Instagram? And if we see all of these people saying that like, that's the number one priority in life, that you enjoy your work, and we start to get thrown off or depressed because it's like, well, I don't. So now my life's bad.
Or maybe I thought I did, but now that you're making me think about it, I don't anymore. Sometimes it's so much a mindset sometimes. I remember I might have mentioned this on another podcast, so I apologize, but it just stood out to me so much because we look up to people like, someone like Reese Witherspoon, and she just, to the world, she has the most amazing job in the world. And she started her own company and like, she was interviewed by Adam Grant and she's still like, it's still work and there's days I don't want to show up. There's days it's just like, I don't want to go in today. She still does. It's still work. So I think that perspective is important too.
Yeah. Well, I think one of my other questions is not only where is that tension or question coming from for you, but to your point, Sandy, if most people asking the question do want to enjoy their work, then what's keeping you from going for it? And I'm curious. I think as coaches, we get genuinely curious because there's 1,000 different answers to that.
Is.
And I love hearing where someone's at. Like, what is keeping you from it? For some people, it's fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
For some people, it's like, but this is known and safe and it's scary to change. For some people, it's like, I'm just too busy. I don't even know where to start and how to do it. And for a lot of people at Greenhouse, it's, I don't actually know what I want to do. Help me figure that out. So that like, what's keeping you from going for it? Shout out to John Ramstead. Sunday, you're doing a class with him right now, a coaching class. And he always had I thought a cool way of phrasing it. And he would say, when he first, like his first conversation with someone in coaching was always, okay, what is like your ideal, genie in a bottle? Like, what's the goal? And the very next question he would almost always ask was, what is holding you back, getting in your way, or, I'm messing up the wording. He had a very specific wording.
Three phrases?
3 phrases. What is getting in your way, holding you back, or keeping you from doing that? And I loved, it was very intentional by him. He said, because I'm not asking them like, well, why aren't you doing it?
I know that sounds a little harsher too.
It's not, as coaching is, it's not judgmental. He's not saying, well, what's wrong with you? He's saying there's probably realistic things in your life holding you back from going a direction you want to go. So let's explore that. Like, what are those things? And if we can step back and name them, then maybe we can start to intentionally work on them. So that's kind of my curiosity about it. Whether you just don't know what you'd enjoy, or maybe the pain of making a change is kind of bigger than the pain of staying in the stuck place. And so you're just like, the change feels big. But I'm curious
I was
what
recently
you think.
coaching someone who said that their reason for not stepping into that place is because they're afraid it won't be again the right choice. So perfection, looking for the perfect next choice.
What if I don't get it right?
Yeah, what if
I miss
again?
my calling or something?
And I'm like, that's so interesting. And I was like, what? A job is not forever. It can be, but if you made the next wrong choice, it's like, what's the worst thing that could happen? That statement in of itself just freed this person. She was like, okay, worst case, you're right. If I don't like it, what do I learn from it? Period. That's it.
Or like, I mean, you say this all the time on the podcast. Sometimes it's just shifts within your current job.
Yeah.
I've been coaching somebody in our community who is long-term, has some dreams about starting a business and is starting to make plans. And I think that is the right move and it's awesome for this person. But right now, life circumstances and all kinds of things, that would be a bad move to make right now.
Yeah.
So what he's decided and what we've been working on is like right now, just try to find a different role within the same company.
Yeah.
I mean,
for right
so
now,
often that's totally doable.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like there are some opportunities that are just going to like kind of reduce the stress level a bit, create some space. He needs a little more balance with family life and other things and health. And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe it's not this huge shift, even though like in long term, he does want to make a bigger change. One other point I wanted to make on this, like, does it matter if your career is enjoyable? For me personally, like this is actually a spiritual question to me too. And for some people it may be or may not be. And so that is a whole other like path to go down that's interesting to me. But what I would say is I think that what I've seen in our work at Greenhouse is that when people enjoy their work more, they actually help others and help the world more. Because naturally, like when you're doing what you're good at and what you enjoy, you naturally like make a greater positive impact. So I think that to me, that's like a reason why it does matter. Why even someone like your sister, it's cool to me that she maybe doesn't have her like dream job, but she finds ways to make it enjoyable. She probably has more positive impact on people because of that. And so to me, that's maybe one of the like deeper facets of it that I think about a lot. I think we naturally do better work and help more people when we're doing kind of more what we're wired to do. And I think that's important. All right. Should we talk a little bit about a practical step?
Yes.
Please.
We should.
All right. So I think I mentioned this before. It's not a question of should work be enjoyable, but more about what do you want? Like, what do you want for you? And what we're always helping people do is like shift out of reactive mode and everything is like shaping me to kind of getting intentional in this space and saying, all right, what could I do about it? And so the practical step I want to give is so simple that it's almost too small. It's what did you play as a kid? And we actually have a download in the show notes that guides you through it because sometimes it's hard to do on your own. But I just want you to spend like 5 minutes, that's all I'm talking about, thinking about what did you play as a kid? Because there's so many good clues in that. And that is actually the first step of the career sweet spot process. So when people go through that with us, like that's the first step is what did you play as a kid? And what can we glean from that actually tells you a lot about what you want to be when you grow up. And so, well, I'll just kind of stop there because the download guides you through it. But it's a real quick kind of fun thought exercise. And almost always, sometimes people object at the beginning and they're like, I don't know, or what is this? And almost always people are like pleasantly surprised with what they think about.
I think the important thing to understand about this question too is it's not always the exact
Right. It's not a literal. Yeah.
It's like the motivations sometimes behind the task, or what is it that you were trying to accomplish through the task? What joy did it give you because of I'm sorry, I'm saying task, but it was actually something we played as a kid. It wasn't that. So I had two different clients who both said Monopoly for completely different reasons. I thought that was really interesting. One was about the competition. It was like, I'm going to win. I'm going to get better at this than every kid in my neighborhood. It was like, so the competitive piece, it was actually about Monopoly. I had another person who said Monopoly, and they were like, it was actually about the budgeting and the money and the finances of it. It was like super exciting to think, what can I do? What are the possibilities with this money that I'm given? Totally two different motivations for the same game.
Oh, I love it. Oh,
that's a really good example.
Break, I was watching my daughter and her cousins are sitting on the floor playing Life.
Oh, funny.
Which is so similar to Monopoly.
Yeah, that was a good game.
And of course, you know, I have to sit there and like try to psychoanalyze it. I was like, you could tell the motivations were different. They were all so into it, but for totally different reasons.
Different reasons.
And, but yeah, it's a great call out because this exercise is like, so the first baby step.
Yeah.
All it is remembering things you enjoyed and played.
Yeah.
When you had free time, what did you gravitate towards? When you just could play whatever you wanted, what did you just naturally do? And that's it. That's the end of the exercise. You don't go any further. You don't try to
don't psychoanalyze yourself.
Yeah, you don't try to make conclusions from it at all. You just get that.
Notice.
Because in the career sweet spot process, it's like the problem with this stuff, personality tests or whatever, it's all hypothetical. It's like, Jacqueline, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you're like, I don't know. What are you good at? What are your strengths and passions? You're like, I don't know. And it's all hypothetical. And it's like somehow expecting you to come up with something out of nothing. Whereas our process goes back to like factual things that actually happened in your life.
Yeah.
So much easier. So you kind of go back and you say, what did I play as a kid? And just remember some of those memories. And then like, it's so much easier afterward to pull out the insights.
Yeah.
So I love when you don't just remember things you played. Like I played basketball a lot. You come up with specific stories and memories. That one time I was playing with my neighbor and he kept dunking on me and it was like getting me all worked up, tell me a story because that's where the good stuff comes from. So bottom line on this episode is just that, like, if you're asking the question, should work be enjoyable? Where's that question coming from? And you do you, like, if it matters to you, then take a step to figure it out. And you can do the download we have here to get started. instead of just waiting and wondering forever and being stuck in the frustration loop. And if it doesn't matter to you right now, hey, permission to let it go. But you're probably not listening this far in the episode.
Right.
if your
answer to the question was no immediately, you probably didn't even get this far. You're right.
You're like, next. But yeah, in the show notes, you can get the download, what you played as a kid. It kind of walks you through. It's like a 5-minute exercise. Or if you're rearing to go, you can jump in. We have the Career Sweet Spot course or a Career Sweet Spot coaching session to kind of get started in the process at greenhousecoaching.co.